Why does modern sleep often feel so fragmented? We have premium mattresses, exceptionally quiet bedrooms, and countless sleep aids, yet exhaustion persists. Medieval individuals, however, followed a sleep pattern so effective, it may be history's best-kept secret to restful slumber. Let's explore it. Ever awakened at 2 a.m. staring at your ceiling for hours? Medieval people would have found this completely normal. Indeed, they'd likely wonder why you weren't engaged in productive pursuits during those peaceful nocturnal hours. Medieval communities practiced what historians call biphasic sleep, a two-stage sleep cycle. As darkness fell, they'd begin a first sleep of roughly 4 hours. They'd then awaken for about 2 hours before returning to a second sleep until dawn. During these intervening hours, medieval life subtly shifted. Families shared stories. Monasteries documented monks devoting this time to prayer and meditation. Individuals wrote letters by candlelight, crafted, or simply conversed quietly. These weren't sleep interruptions, but integral parts of their daily rhythm. The original burning the midnight oil wasn't born from procrastination, but was a deliberate practice. These nocturnal hours served practical purposes as well. Town records show artisans routinely used this time to tend kilns or monitor slow-cooking dishes. Bakers would start preparing their dough, taking advantage of the optimal fermentation period between sleeps. Even in affluent households, these hours were utilized. Women used this time to embroider, escaping daytime demands. Essentially, me time was built into the pre-dawn quiet while others slept. The sleep pattern's allure lies in its inherent naturalness for humans. Studies in the 1990s, where individuals lived weeks without artificial light, showed participants naturally adopting a two-phase sleep cycle. Their bodies instinctively adapted to what medieval people had always known. This is how humans were designed to rest. Our ancestors weren't sleep-deprived. They were sleep-wise. This practice left its mark on medieval literature. The Canterbury Tales features characters rising between sleeps for adventures, and household manuals offered specific midnight activity suggestions. Some believed that thoughts and conversations during this time held unique significance due to the mind's heightened clarity. Medieval productivity experts would have rejoiced in this previously untapped window of opportunity. Medical texts show physicians viewed this midnight wakefulness as beneficial for health, promoting everything from digestion to cognitive function. One physician wrote that dreams from the first sleep could indicate illnesses, and the waking period was ideal for interpreting their meaning. Another advocated for gentle stretching during this time, although he specifically discouraged vigorous sword practice. Apparently, enthusiastic knights needed this reminder. The original "don't exercise before bed" warning. Archaeological findings from medieval homes reveal how pervasive this practice was across Europe. Dedicated sitting areas and alcoves for these nocturnal activities have been uncovered in ordinary homes. Special candle holders for long-burning rushlights, perfect for reading and crafting, have been found in homes of all social classes, indicating that this wasn't just an elite habit. The original cozy reading nook wasn't by the fireplace, but wherever one found themselves comfortable at 2 a.m. Letters from a French noblewoman in 1465 detail using this time for poetry, attributing the clarity of her inspiration to the quietude between sleeps. A merchant's records show meticulous accounting during these hours, noting his heightened mental acuity for numbers. Medieval insomniacs weren't counting sheep, they were counting money. Hospital records show patients were most articulate and clear-headed during their midnight waking period. Nurses used this time for administering medicine and recording symptoms, believing these between-sleep observations to be highly reliable. The original hospital rounds occurred when modern doctors would be resting. For medieval people, this nighttime wakefulness wasn't just about alertness. It was a distinct state of consciousness, the watching hour. They believed this time had unique qualities. Prayers were more effective, creative ideas flowed easier, and conversations reached deeper levels of meaning. While we might view their beliefs as superstitious, modern sleep research indicates this period between sleep phases often yields a state of relaxed alertness, ideal for reflection and light activities. The original mindfulness practice required no app. The remarkable thing about the medieval sleep pattern wasn't just its existence, but its creation of a unique time for reflection and connection, largely lost in the modern world. In those peaceful, dark hours with only the gentle flicker of candlelight, medieval individuals discovered another key to excellent sleep: Modern bedrooms often resemble Times Square at midnight. Phones glow, electronics blink, and streetlights pierce the curtains. In contrast, the darkness of medieval nights was profound, almost unimaginable today. There were no streetlights, glowing screens, or even much moonlight in crowded cities where tall buildings blocked the sky. The only light came from fires, candles, and oil lamps, and they weren't used casually. A single candle could cost a day's wages. Artificial light was a luxury, used sparingly. Even wealthy merchants typically had only 3 or 4 candles, which were so valuable that some wills specifically listed the inheritance of partly used candles. One amusing case from York describes a family squabble over a half-burnt beeswax candle of significant size. Even medieval inheritance law had its humorous moments. Without artificial light extending the day, people's sleep patterns naturally followed the sun. The body produces melatonin as it gets dark. Medieval people received an undiluted dose of this natural sleep hormone every night. Their bodies weren't confused by blue light from screens, which can suppress melatonin production by up to 85% according to research. Medieval doctors understood the link between darkness and restful sleep, even without knowing about melatonin, advising patients with sleep problems to ensure dark sleeping chambers. One physician wrote that sleep comes best to those who embrace darkness like a warm blanket. Poetic and scientifically accurate, even if he didn't know why. Darkness shaped medieval society in compelling ways. Towns had strict curfews, not only for safety, but because tasks requiring visual precision were impossible after dark. Detailed work like embroidery or manuscript illumination was forbidden after sunset to prevent eye strain and maintain quality. Darkness also impacted commerce. Towns had darkness prices for goods. Items cost more after sunset due to the extra candles needed to conduct business. Some merchants specialized in night trade, charging higher prices for emergency goods. The most striking aspect of medieval darkness is how people adapted, developing a sensory world we've largely lost. They identified individuals by footsteps, distinguished animals in complete darkness, and navigated spaces using touch and sound. In the 15th century, night watchmen reportedly told time by the sounds of insects and birds. Darkness even influenced architecture. Homes were designed with light wells and strategically placed windows to maximize daytime light. Light-colored plaster reflected and amplified this limited illumination. Wealthier homes featured light cups, curved recesses amplifying candlelight. Monasteries were particularly serious about darkness. Records reveal systems for maintaining it in dormitories. Some even had darkness keepers to ensure no unauthorized lights disturbed the monks' sleep. Medieval sleep guardians patrolling the halls. The value of darkness was deeply ingrained in medieval culture, with laws protecting it. Light pollution wasn't just wasteful, it was illegal. European cities imposed fines for unnecessary nighttime illumination. In 1486, it was decreed that wasting light at night stole sleep from neighbors, a concept our modern, brightly lit cities should consider. This profound darkness had a marked effect on sleep quality. Without artificial light, medieval people typically spent 6 to 8 hours in complete darkness before sleep. This darkness maximized melatonin production, resulting in deeper, more refreshing sleep. Hospital records show healing wards were designed to be especially dark, with windows carefully positioned to avoid morning light disturbing patients and thick curtains used to maintain darkness, even during the day for those who needed it. Medieval doctors noted that patients in darker rooms recovered faster, attributing this to shadow's soothing effects rather than the biological benefits we now understand. As the gentle darkness of medieval nights gave way to our artificially lit world, we lost something profound: the experience of true natural darkness and its restorative benefits for sleep. Yet another crucial aspect of medieval sleep complemented this darkness: the concept of privacy, which differed dramatically from our modern understanding. While we might balk at the idea of sharing a bed with strangers, it was perfectly acceptable and often expected in medieval times, practical and sometimes legally required. An innkeeper in York was fined for providing separate beds to travelers when his inn wasn't full. The magistrate ruled that it was against custom and wasteful to heat multiple rooms when guests could share warmth. Medieval hospitality meant literal closeness, whether you liked it or not. Imagine mandatory cuddling. The practical benefits of bed sharing went beyond warmth. Medieval houses weren't heated like modern ones. Most rooms were unheated. Shared body heat was the primary source of warmth, and people devised sophisticated systems for maximizing it. Household guides describe the ideal sleeping arrangement. This communal sleeping also affected furniture design. Medieval beds were larger than modern ones, built to accommodate multiple sleepers. An 8-foot-wide merchant's bed from the 1400s could comfortably sleep 4 adults. Beds were also shorter, as people often slept semi-reclined, believing that lying flat encouraged bad dreams. When nightmares might involve the plague, sitting up seemed prudent. This communal sleeping had fascinating social consequences. Conversations and agreements were made in bed, creating a bed fellowship where shared sleep spaces facilitated social bonding and business dealings. In 1478, a decision was made based on testimony from someone who'd overheard a crucial conversation in a shared bed at an inn, the original eavesdropping device. Children's sleeping arrangements were particularly communal. Instead of private rooms, children often slept in larger groups, sometimes sharing a single bed. This practice was believed to promote warmth and character development. Medieval parenting guides even suggested that children who slept alone might become selfish or fearful. Nothing builds character like getting kicked by 6 siblings all night long. It wasn't without its challenges. Numerous complaints exist about bed sharing gone wrong, stolen blankets, midnight kicks. A merchant even sued an inn because his bed partner sang sea shanties in his sleep with such force that sleep was impossible. The first documented case of sleep singing disorder. Inns developed creative solutions, snorers' chambers for particularly loud sleepers, and systems for matching travelers based on sleeping habits. A medieval roommate matching service. Sir, you're a blanket tugger, so we've paired you with a heat radiator who doesn't mind. Guild records reveal profession-specific bed-sharing customs. Bakers needing to wake early often shared rooms. One baker noted, members should seek the company of their own trade in sleep, lest the early riser disturb the late sleeper's rest. The baker's brotherhood united in dough and slumber. Bed sharing even influenced architecture. Many medieval homes had large shared sleeping chambers instead of individual bedrooms. These rooms often had multiple fireplaces and carefully planned ventilation to ensure fresh air for all sleepers. Records show wealthy merchants' homes typically had one large sleeping chamber, not several smaller ones. The original open floor plan was actually an open bed plan. Interestingly, medieval medical texts suggest shared sleeping was considered beneficial for mental health. Physicians recommended shared sleep to treat melancholy and anxiety. One doctor wrote that solitary sleep breeds solitary thoughts while shared sleep brings shared peace. The original sleep therapy was simply adding more people to the bed. The decline of widespread bed sharing arrived gradually with changes in architecture and heating. As private bedrooms became more common and houses were better heated, the practice waned and people reported worse sleep. This highlights a crucial aspect of successful medieval sleep, something our modern society seems determined to avoid. The shift to private bedrooms resulted in a newfound longing for the warmth and companionship of shared sleeping arrangements. The first instances of what we now term empty nest syndrome may have actually been a form of empty bed syndrome. While sharing a bed with strangers might strike us as unusual today, medieval individuals would likely find our insistence on solitary sleep equally peculiar. However, medieval sleep comfort extended beyond simply shared body heat. Long before memory foam and pillow-top mattresses, medieval people slept on something far simpler and possibly better for their backs: a wooden frame filled with fresh straw, known as a straw tick. While this might sound rudimentary, this bedding choice offered remarkable advantages. Household records from the 1400s reveal a seasonal ritual of straw replacement. Each harvest brought fresh straw for bedding, with old straw repurposed as animal fodder or garden mulch. Wealthier households replaced their straw more frequently. One noble family's records indicate monthly replacements, noting that fresh straw brings fresh dreams. The process of preparing the straw bed was far from haphazard. It was a skill. Professional bed makers provided detailed instructions on layering and arranging the straw to achieve various levels of firmness. Some bed makers even achieved renown for their expertise. One 15th century craftsman, known as Thomas the Soft Layer, commanded premium prices for his services. These straw mattresses proved surprisingly adaptable. During hot summers, the straw could be loosely packed for enhanced air circulation. In winter, Tighter packing provided superior insulation. Some households even kept different types of straw for different seasons. Wheat straw for summer and rye straw for winter. Medical records from the period suggest that these firm straw beds may have been healthier than our modern ultra-soft mattresses. Medieval physicians noted fewer complaints of back pain among their patients. Wealthier medieval individuals did have alternatives, such as feather beds, but these came with their own set of problems. One noble family bemoaned the perpetual war against bed bugs feasting on their feathers. Another account details a merchant who switched back to straw after his expensive feather bed became infested with fleas. The maintenance of straw beds created its own economy. Professional straw turners visited homes to fluff and rearrange the straw, ensuring even wear and checking for unwanted guests. Cost records reveal that straw beds were remarkably economical. A year's supply of fresh straw cost about the equivalent of 2 days' wages for the average worker. This contrasts sharply with feather beds, which could cost several months' wages. The type of straw used was also significant. Wheat straw was considered the best, followed by rye, while oat straw was avoided due to its tendency to attract mice. One medieval saying warned that oat straw in the bed brings four-legged guests. Clever merchants sometimes tried to pass off inferior straw as premium wheat straw, leading to the establishment of straw inspectors in certain towns. Innovations in straw bed design demonstrate medieval ingenuity. Some beds incorporated multiple layers of different straw types, creating what could be considered the world's first hybrid mattress. Others included aromatic herbs between the layers, lavender for relaxation, mint to deter pests, and rosemary believed to prevent nightmares. This practice even influenced language. Many common phrases originated from straw bed terminology. Hit the hay, obviously referring to going to bed, originally described settling into the middle of a well-packed straw mattress. The expression needle in a haystack likely stems from the frustrating experience of losing a sewing needle in one's bed. Monasteries provided detailed guidelines for bed maintenance. One monastery mandated weekly straw turning, with additional rules about proper disposal. Old straw was to be burned, not reused, as it might retain fragments of dreams best left undisturbed, an early form of spiritual recycling. Medieval hospitals also had their specifications for therapeutic straw beds. They used different straw densities depending on the patient's condition, softer for those with fevers, firmer for those with back problems. Some hospitals even maintained special straw gardens to cultivate specific grains for bedding. One heated case involved a bedmaker accused of adulterating his straw with river reeds to boost profits. The judge ordered him to sleep on his own creation for a month, a punishment that probably left him rather uncomfortable. The practicality of straw bedding aligned well with medieval sleeping habits. The straw's breathability kept sleepers cool in summer, and combined with shared body warmth, warm in winter. The gentle rustling sound of the straw was even considered beneficial. One medical text suggests it provided a soothing lullaby for troubled sleepers. While nobles eventually adopted feather beds as a status symbol, many retained straw beds for summer or when their backs ached. This simple bedding approach perfectly complemented their gentle approach to waking. Long before jarring alarm clocks, medieval people mastered the art of natural awakening. Their secret? They didn't fight their body's rhythms, they worked with them. Instead of forcing themselves awake at arbitrary times, they allowed the sun, sounds, and their internal clocks to guide them. An intricate system of morning bells served as the community timekeeper. Unlike modern alarms, these bells followed predictable patterns that bodies learned to anticipate. The first bell would ring at dawn, 4 a.m. in summer, 7 a.m. in winter. But medieval folks didn't rely solely on bells. They utilized an impressive array of natural wake-up methods. Rooster keeping wasn't just for farmers. Town records show urban households kept roosters as living alarm clocks. One merchant even sued his neighbor for having an overly enthusiastic rooster that crowed an hour before everyone else's. The medieval body seemed to adapt well to this natural waking system. Monastery records offer intriguing insights into natural waking practices. Monks employed a system called gradual awakening, beginning to stir an hour before rising. The first to wake would engage in quiet activities, soft footsteps, quiet prayers, gradually rousing others. One monastery's rule praised the gentle riser who wakes his brothers with kindness. Natural waking also influenced architecture. Medieval builders positioned beds to catch the morning sun. Sleeping chambers often faced east. Some wealthy homes had windows specifically designed to direct the first light onto sleepers' faces. Windows were strategically placed to catch the morning chorus of birds, nature's gentlest alarm clock. Working hours adapted to this natural waking pattern. Instead of rigid start times, medieval workdays began when workers naturally arrived, usually within an hour of sunrise. This flexibility accounted for seasons and natural light. The lack of strict wake-up times led to surprisingly few morning-related disputes. When everyone operates on natural time, being late held a different meaning. One judge dismissed a case about morning tardiness, stating that the sun and the body's readiness, not a clock, determined the proper start time. Medieval parents also approached their children's sleep differently. Instead of struggling to wake children for school, medieval children typically awoke naturally. Teaching often started at flexible times, particularly in winter. Even warfare adapted to natural waking patterns. Armies often delayed morning movements until troops awoke naturally. One commander noted that soldiers waking naturally fought better than those jolted awake, though he added that this made surprise dawn attacks particularly effective. This natural waking system wasn't without its challenges. Some jobs, like baking, demanded pre-dawn starts. These workers developed solutions, going to bed exceptionally early or using multiple shorter sleep periods. Patients were generally allowed to wake naturally unless medical treatment demanded otherwise. One hospital's guidelines specifically prohibited waking sleeping patients, noting that the body heals best when it wakes of its own accord. This natural approach meant medieval people rarely experienced the modern panic of oversleeping. The smooth transition from sleep to wakefulness wasn't the only natural aspect of medieval slumber. They also utilized herbal remedies. Instead of sleeping pills, they employed carefully crafted herbal concoctions based on generations of experience. These weren't random mixtures. Medieval healers developed sophisticated herbal combinations for different sleep issues. 1400s records reveal dedicated sleep gardens where monks cultivated specific herbs. One Yorkshire garden contained 15 different sleep-promoting varieties. The monastery supplied these herbs to the local community. One amusing note describes a merchant who claimed their chamomile was a better soporific than any sermon. A text titled The Night's Comfort provides detailed information on sleep remedies. Its author, a monk, documented hundreds of herbal combinations, including harvesting instructions and patient outcomes. He was particularly proud of his Peaceful Dreams blend, combining lavender, chamomile, and a mysterious herb he called Star's Breath, likely valerian. Lavender was a popular sleep aid, but not just for its fragrance. Medieval healers used it in specific combinations: lavender and rose petals for anxiety-related insomnia, or lavender and chamomile for racing thoughts. One apothecary complained about customers haggling over lavender prices, noting that they'd spend a fortune on ale but pinch pennies on peaceful sleep. The preparation of these remedies followed strict rules. Some herbs were picked only by moonlight, believing this enhanced their efficacy. Others had specific harvest times. A herbalist was fined for gathering valerian root in spring instead of autumn. Medieval households often had their own sleep remedy gardens. Commoners grew simple herbs like chamomile and mint, while wealthy estates cultivated elaborate gardens with rare sleep-promoting plants. One noble family's garden included exotic sleep aids imported from as far away as Constantinople, although their steward noted that common chamomile worked just as well. Pillow sachets, small cloth bags filled with dried herbs placed in pillowcases, were particularly popular. Different combinations served different purposes: hops and lavender for deep sleep, rosemary and mint for those who needed to wake early. One inventory lists sleep sachets for the wealthy that contain the same herbs as the common ones, but in fancier bags and at triple the price. Hospitals even scented different wards with specific herbs based on patients' conditions: mint in the fever ward, lavender in the recovery ward. Another significant medieval text, the Herbalist's Night Watch, details specific preparations for various sleep difficulties. For insomnia, it recommended chamomile and passionflower tea. For early waking, a stronger blend of valerian and hops was prescribed. The guide even included a section on herbs for sleep talking, although it noted that the stories were sometimes too entertaining to cure. Some remedies combined herbs with specific actions. A 1478 text recommends gently brushing the temples with rosemary-infused oil while reciting calming prayers, while another suggests washing feet in lavender water before bed, though one physician noted that the benefit might come more from washing the feet than the lavender itself. The trade in sleep herbs created its own economy. Specialized harvesters supplied markets and apothecaries. Professional herb dryers played a crucial role, as proper drying was essential for winter use. These herbal traditions proved remarkably effective for various sleep issues. A physician's guide notes, sleep comes easily to those who trust in nature's remedies rather than fighting against the night. Monasteries even developed early sleep clinics where people could stay for a few nights of herb-assisted rest. These sleep retreats combined herbal remedies with serene surroundings and regular schedules, with people traveling from up to 50 miles away for this treatment. Although they noted that the journey itself was often exhausting enough to ensure a good night's rest. While these gentle herbal approaches aided medieval sleep, another aspect of their routine made falling asleep even easier. Late-night snacking was essentially non-existent. This wasn't from a lack of desire, but from necessity. Without refrigeration or artificial light, eating after sunset became more trouble than it was worth. This limitation, born of necessity, actually provided a significant advantage in terms of sleep quality. Medieval households followed strict mealtime schedules, promoting a natural rhythm of eating and sleeping. The principal meal, known as dinner, typically occurred around midday, followed by a lighter supper in the late afternoon, well before sunset. In 1465, dinner was timed to coincide with the sun's zenith, and supper when shadows lengthened to twice the size of the objects casting them. A natural timing system. Try explaining that to someone with an Apple Watch. One amusing legal dispute involved an innkeeper accused of serving meals at ungodly hours. His defense? His guests were Spanish travelers unfamiliar with proper Christian dining times. The judge ruled that even foreign digestive systems must abide by local customs, perhaps the earliest example of when in Rome. Medieval physicians observed that late eaters often experienced poor sleep and unusual dreams. One physician's guide warned against overeating after sundown, associating it with everything from nightmares to indigestion. Another physician asserted that those who dine late rise late, their minds remaining foggy like morning mist. A medieval take on, you're not yourself when you're hungry. Monastic kitchens strictly adhered to daylight-regulated meal schedules. The evening bell signaling the final meal wasn't just a religious observance, it was a practical cutoff for kitchen staff. One rule explicitly stated that, when vespers ring, the fires must die, regardless of hunger. A strict kitchen close policy. Working people followed similar regulations. The prohibition against late eating created interesting social norms. Evening gatherings emphasized conversation and entertainment, not food. Hosts offering substantial meals after sunset were considered ostentatious or lacking in social grace. Evening visits were explicitly for fellowship, not feasting. We've already eaten, thanks, in medieval terms. Food preservation and preparation practices reinforce these dietary patterns. Without refrigeration or easy heating, preparing late meals was impractical. Fires were usually banked after the evening meal, and rekindling them for a simple snack was considered too much effort, perhaps the origin of the phrase, not worth the trouble. Medieval kitchens were designed for large-scale scheduled meal preparation. The absence of easily accessible individual cooking implements made impromptu meals difficult. You couldn't just pop something in the microwave or order takeout from the neighboring castle. Frustrated traveling merchants arriving at inns after sunset were often offered only ale, with innkeepers firmly stating that kitchens, like chickens, must rest when the sun does. A medieval equivalent of, "Sir, we're closed." Rural communities adhered even more strictly to natural rhythms. The day's final meal coincided with bringing in livestock for the night. By the time evening chores were complete, the kitchen was long cold. Patients who adhered to regular meal times reportedly recovered faster than those with irregular eating habits. Perhaps the original, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but timed to the sun's position. Medieval kitchen staff finished their work well before nightfall. One cook proudly declared, "Our members sleep as soundly as any, for our work ends when the day does." One apprentice, however, grumbled about having to wake before the birds even considered breakfast. Perhaps history's first avowed, not a morning person. This practice also influenced architecture. Medieval kitchens were frequently situated away from living quarters, rendering late-night food raids impractical. One noble house's renovation plans included the note, "Kitchen placed far enough from chambers to prevent midnight wanderings." Apparently, even the wealthy couldn't be trusted near a pantry. Medieval aristocrats, they're just like us. Beyond improved sleep, this eating pattern yielded an unexpected benefit. Medieval people got their exercise simply by living. Daily life involved constant physical activity from dawn till dusk, naturally tiring bodies and promoting restful sleep. A farmer's day was a full-body workout. They walked 10 to 12 miles daily working their fields. Plowing an acre involved walking 8 miles behind a plow, pushing against resistant soil, medieval CrossFit at its finest. Craftspeople also had built-in exercise. Blacksmiths essentially did arm day daily, swinging hammers weighing up to 10 lbs for hours, making modern dumbbells seem like toys. It took apprentices at least 3 months to build up the strength for a full day's work, and you could spot an apprentice by their slightly uneven gait and perpetually sore arms. Even seemingly lighter work involved continuous movement. Medieval bread recipes required 30 minutes of continuous kneading per batch. The original upper body workout video, minus the spandex and peppy music. Weavers worked standing looms, walking miles back and forth daily, wearing through shoes faster than a teenager in a growth spurt. Textile work was particularly demanding. Wool preparation alone involved hours of physical labor before a single thread could be spun, a full arm workout that would impress any modern personal trainer. New apprentices often couldn't lift their arms after their first week. Seasonal changes brought varied physical demands. Spring's agricultural labor, digging, plowing, planting, required constant bending and lifting. Nature's seasonal gym membership. Summer brought haymaking, demanding sunrise to sunset work with a scythe. Harvest time was the most physically demanding. Working against time and weather, people pushed their limits, working together in marathon sessions of reaping, binding, and stacking. The original group fitness class, minus the matching outfits. When rain threatened, harvesters even worked through the night by moonlight. Winter brought different challenges. Threshing grain, rhythmic movements for hours, wood cutting and hauling wood, up to 40 lbs daily for heating and cooking. Who needs a gym membership when you have trees to chop? Children also got plenty of exercise, helping with chores like water carrying, firewood gathering, and tending animals. A schoolmaster from 1463 even scolded parents for letting their children play too much instead of engaging in proper strength-building activities, possibly history's first fitness fanatic. Urban dwellers weren't exempt. Cities had few-wheeled carts. Goods were carried by hand or on backs through narrow streets. Apprentices regularly made 12 trips up and down 4-story buildings daily, carrying heavy loads. The original stairmaster with bonus weight training. Water carrying alone was significant exercise. Town physicians noted one-sided muscle development in water carriers, necessitating specific counter-exercises. Even the nobility wasn't exempt from physical activity. Hunting, a favored pastime, involved hours of riding, walking, and running. During 3-day hunts, participants covered over 30 miles on foot, while servants likely covered double that distance. Medieval clothing also encouraged movement. Without elastic, clothes had to be loose enough for work. Travel meant walking, lots of it. Merchants averaged 15-20 miles daily on foot. Distance calculations often included footnotes. Subtract 2 miles if traveling alone, add 3 if with apprentices. Even leisure activities involved movement, throwing contests, wrestling, and dance. Sunday afternoons often became impromptu sports competitions, much to the clergy's dismay. Apparently, the congregation was more devoted to games than prayers, though both ensured a good sweat. This constant physical activity led to natural tiredness by evening, making sleep come easily. Physical laborers rarely complained of sleeplessness, though sore muscles were common. Medieval people accidentally invented the perfect sleep routine while simply trying to survive. The most intriguing aspect isn't the exercise itself, but the lack of concern over it. Medieval people didn't plan workouts or count steps. Movement was ingrained in daily life. They were the original functional fitness enthusiasts before it was cool. Speaking of not overthinking, medieval people had another secret to good sleep. They didn't obsess over it. Today we track, analyze, and worry about sleep constantly. I have a friend who spends more time checking sleep stats than actually sleeping. The irony isn't lost on her. Medieval people would have laughed at our modern sleep anxiety, and they'd have a point. Sleep wasn't a project to be managed, it was just sleep. They didn't have sleep coaches, podcasts, or optimization workshops. They had darkness, tired bodies, and common sense. A merchant's records casually mentioned sleeping wherever he could. Beds, benches, even grain sacks, without any concern for thread counts or pillow firmness. Different grain sacks offered varying levels of comfort, with wheat being preferable to barley. Medieval travel tips at their finest. The medieval approach was beautifully simple. Tired, you sleep. Not tired, you're awake. A revolutionary concept. They didn't need an app to tell them they were tired. Their bodies did the job. Monastery records show monks sometimes dozing off during prayers. Rather than fighting it, they'd briefly rest. One monastery even moved sleepy monks to the front to be gently nudged awake. This relaxed attitude likely contributed to better sleep. Modern research shows that sleep anxiety is a major cause of sleep problems. Medieval people were too busy living to worry about sleep. One medieval innkeeper's records show many complaints: hard beds, snoring travelers, noisy roosters, but not a single mention of insomnia. Their biggest sleep-related concern? Guests sleeping too long and missing breakfast. Imagine that as our primary sleep worry today. Medieval medical texts rarely treated sleep problems. While they had remedies for toothaches and wandering spleens, sleep issues were barely mentioned. When addressed, the prescription was simple: work harder during the day. No apps, no white noise machines, just plain exhaustion. One physician simply wrote, "For those who cannot sleep, let them stack hay until their arms grow heavy." Direct, effective, though not exactly spell-like. Interestingly, medieval people had specific terms for different types of rest: sleep, doze, nap, and drowsy. Each served a purpose. They understood that not all rest requires deep sleep. A quiet moment by the fire could be as refreshing as a nap. These varied rest periods were so common that texts mentioned people taking standing rests while working, or fire drowses during winter evenings. Their attitude toward waking was equally relaxed. No one felt the need to seize the day or be ashamed of being a night owl. Dawn came when it came. Unless responsible for lighting fires or milking cows, one's sleep schedule was personal. Records from one village showed different craftspeople starting at various times: bakers before dawn, weavers later. Nobody wrote productivity books on the perfect morning routine. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of medieval sleep is how unremarkable they found it. It wasn't a hobby, health metric, or status symbol. No one boasted about their sleep hygiene. Sleep was simply a part of life. Sleep was only mentioned in records when it interfered with work or prayer, and solutions were practical, not complicated. This simplicity might seem naive, yet that's the point. By not making sleep a complex scientific endeavor, medieval people avoided many modern sleep problems. They didn't create problems by overthinking solutions. Their unintentional genius lay in treating sleep as natural and normal, not something to be achieved or conquered. Modern sleep experts are rediscovering this wisdom, that reducing sleep anxiety is key to better sleep. Medieval people knew this intuitively. They didn't need a bestseller to tell them. Their greatest insight might have been that worry-free sleep wasn't just about how or where you slept, but about cultivating a mind as peaceful as those quiet medieval nights.